Good morning, everyone. We're continuing with our discussion of a festival of light. So let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Master, Paramhansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, dear friend and guide Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow to you all. Help us to be enlightened by your words and your consciousness, that we may understand more deeply the power and the joy of your presence in our lives. Om. Peace. Amen. So we are in a part of the festival that is really one of the most beautiful parts. So we have gaze upon this light as a symbol of God's love. And then we start with this, what is really the heart of the Festival of Light, which is a celebration of the descent of the divine light in the form of an avatar. And we are celebrating the descent of our line of gurus, as Swami makes clear in other places. But we're also celebrating in principle the fact that that the divine is active in our lives and is responsive to our prayers. And so we're explaining the whole concept of avatar here. So Swami writes, a prayer of love went up from earth, and you responded. This is also all through the festival we address the divine directly. We address the divine in a relationship way. We don't just talk about, you could say a prayer of love went up from earth and God responded. And that would be just as true, because this is you with a capital Y. But we're not talking in an abstract philosophical way. We're talking about something that is meaningful, that comes from our hearts. A prayer of love went up from earth and you responded. It's such a simple statement. And every time I read it, it moves me very deeply. Because what we're saying here is that our prayers are answered. A ray of your light flashed out from the heart of infinity. This is just such a beautifully poetic way to talk about how a God-realized master who has no karmic compulsion or reasons of his own to reincarnate in this world will descend from the freedom of infinity. A ray of your light flashed out from the heart of infinity. Also the idea that infinity has a heart. And of course what he means by that is from the center point of infinity, but also it's sweet to think of it as the heart of infinity, because we're talking to a you, but that you isn't a human form, it's not a limited form, it's infinite and eternal. So out of the compassionate heart of that infinite consciousness, a ray of light flashes. This is also, we're talking about, what is it? What is an avatar? An avatar is a ray of light from the heart of infinity. Burst downward through night skies of consciousness, burst through the darkness. Night skies of consciousness. Again, Swami is putting all this in poetic words so that the images will be vivid in our minds. And he pays a great deal of attention, especially in this ritual, not merely to the words and the nuances of meaning and making it beautiful, but also to the actual vibration, the rhythm of the speech, the vibration of the words, so that it will, in itself, begin to transform our subconscious awareness. And what I certainly have found, and many of us have found who have listened to this for years, is these phrases and these ideas go deeply into the subconscious, and in times of stress or in times of need or in times of confusion, the subconscious offers them back. I don't know if you've ever had the experience, I've had it sometimes, where just in the middle of some difficult situation, some chant will come into my mind. Or occasionally when I'm dreaming, when I'm asleep, a chant will come in. And I'm so happy because it means my subconscious has fully absorbed these ideas, so that even when my conscious mind can't make a decision that I'm going to act on this or think about this, my subconscious mind recognizes that this is the place to send the message to me. So Swamiji worked hard to make this language beautiful, clear, and rhythmical. He said much of communication is vibrational. Burst downward through night skies of consciousness. Burst implies this power coming through. He could have just said it came through, but it burst through, because when there's darkness and the light comes, the darkness is completely dissipated by the arrival of the light. And the light is like, it isn't, then it is. So that word burst has a wonderful feeling. And night skies of consciousness just sort of give us this picture of wandering around, just wandering around under this veil of darkness. And then all of a sudden, like a meteor, this ray of light from the heart of infinity bursts downwards. And then it says, and was born on earth for the redemption of mankind in human form. See, the greatest lack in Western religion, in both Judaism and in Christianity, is that in Judaism, they do not have the concept of an avatar at all. It's the laws of Moses have been interpreted to mean that there's no thou shalt have no other God, and that the idea of the avatar has been lost. We understand in the Jewish faith the prayer, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, is a fundamental and a powerful prayer, and it's pure Vedanta. It's right out of the Bhagavad Gita. It's Sanatana Dharma at its best, which is that there is no reality except the divine. And Hear, O Israel means listen, all people of the Lord. There is only one God, and that is God himself. But that has led to there being no saints, there being no avatars, there being no gurus, except, of course, human nature being what it is. Jewish people find a wise rabbi. And even though they don't call it the same thing, it's the same thing. We're being guided because the human heart wants to be guided by wisdom. But in the philosophy of Judaism, in the teaching of Judaism, you don't have the idea of the avatar anymore. And Judaism is Sanatana Dharma, so it's the truth, it's just not clear. And in Christianity, the irony of Christianity, to my mind, the way many people practice it, is that it repudiates the Eastern idea of the guru and all of that. But it is the most guru-oriented religion in the world. It's entirely and utterly dedicated to the saving grace of Jesus Christ, which is precisely Sanatana Dharma and the power of the guru to liberate you from delusion. But because Jesus is considered to be singular, the only Son of God, which has an esoteric explanation, but it has been, through churchianity, come down to mean the incarnated form of the Christ consciousness in the person of Jesus. And because there's no context, the context has been lost because the 18 years of Jesus' time in India studying with the great masters was taken out of the Bible. Jesus is simply a singleton. We don't know how he came to be the Son of God, and we know for a fact there won't be anyone after him, that he's, or so they say, that revelation began and ended with Jesus Christ. And so as a consequence, we don't have the idea of over-incarnations, the gradual, the dawning of self-awareness. We don't have the avatar out of the compassion of his heart and with the wisdom of his own experience returning again and again. The Gita says, whenever virtue declines and vice predominates, I, the infinite spirit, take visible form in order to restore Dharma again. So the Indian tradition totally understands Jesus and totally reveres Jesus as a fully self-realized Christ master. But they also understand that revelation did not begin nor did it end with Jesus Christ. And what Yogananda came to bring in showing the original teachings of Hinduism and the original teachings of Jesus, which interestingly, the original teachings of Jesus were Judaism. So it's like by teaching the original teachings of Jesus, you're actually teaching Judaism, because Jesus was a Jew, almost all his followers were Jews, his entire teaching was an expression of Judaism, and because Judaism is Sanatana Dharma. And then only much later did it all fracture, because the avatars bring revelation, and then out of that revelation mankind creates religion. And religion becomes separating. Sanatana Dharma is unifying. So Master came to do all of this. So here, in the Festival of Light, burst downward through night skies of consciousness and was born on earth for the redemption of mankind in human form. I mean, that's exactly what Christianity says about Jesus, truly. And its only problem is the word only, actually. A friend of mine who was an Episcopal priest said that, all of the philosophy that he learned at Ananda, and he became a disciple in a Kriya, did not interfere with him being an Episcopal priest. He just had a different understanding of the word only, meaning that Christ consciousness itself is the only true and full expression of the divine. And all of us must come to that. And this is where Judaism and Christianity struggle a bit, because they don't have the process of self-realization. They don't understand what the real goal is. And it's there in the Jewish tradition. And when we were in India, not in India, in Israel a couple of years ago, and we met this wonderful man who studies the Kabbalah, and he translated many of the Hebrew text, and it was exactly the same as our teachings. It was a complete meeting of heart, mind, and spirit, because he'd gone back to the original sources and understood it as it was intended. So this is something that when in the Bhagavad Gita it says, when virtue declines and vice predominates, I incarnate again. It just means that religions begin to obscure revelation. And so the avatars come to re-articulate that which has never changed, but in words and in a way that people can understand in the present time. So a prayer of love went up from earth, and you descended in human form for the redemption of mankind. And then it says, many times has that light descended. And this is where Swamiji is reasserting Sanatana Dharma. Many times has that light descended, drawn to earth by the call of aspiring love. And again, this goes back to what I often am talking about, St. John, as many as received him. Because the infinite light is always equally shining. And the perception we have that it waxes and wanes is a description of our own ability to receive it, not of the divine light waxing and waning, but our attunement to it, waxing and waning. But nonetheless, there is that call of aspiring love. Aspiring love is a wonderful phrase. There's so many just wonderful words, because it's love that seeks to be more than it already is. It's a love that's not content with what it has, but aspires for much greater things. This world can be a very painful experience, and we know that we were made for perfect happiness. One of the greatest evidences of our divinity is the fact that we know when we are suffering that there's something wrong, that this is not who I was meant to be. If it was who I was meant to be, it wouldn't occur to me that redemption was even possible. But it's because within me is this divine awareness of perfect love and perfect joy. So I aspire to more. And God comes because we call, drawn to earth by the call of aspiring love. Many times has that light descended. So this, I will, well, I'll finish the sentence here. Your chosen people have always been those of every race and nation who with deep love chose thee. Now this is a direct reference to a powerful teaching in Judaism that the Jews are the chosen people. And it's a truth. The Jews were the remnant of Sanatana Dharma in a declining dark age. And those people, especially the Essene community within the greater community of Judaism at the time of Jesus, was true to the highest teachings, and they were continually receiving the power and presence of God. And when we receive, your chosen people have always been those of every race and nation who with deep love choose thee. God does not have favorites. To all who received him, to them gave he the power. And the Jews were tremendously high teaching, and they were constantly offering a prayer of aspiring love, and as a result, the divine would come into them. And then you would feel chosen by God because you're guided by God. He's listening. You feel his response. Now, what I was remembering here is one of the days that I was officiating over the ceremony at our temple here in Palo Alto. There were a few people, and they were Israelis, and they were interested in yoga, and they came to see us because of our interest in yoga. And afterwards, they came up to me, and they were very upset because they felt that this was an anti-Semitic remark. Your chosen people have always been those of every race and nation who with deep love chose thee. I laughed, and I told them, Swamiji also, corrects several other traditions. You're just not aware of him doing it. The only one you're aware of is that one because it's such a strong symbol for Judaism. Even this right here, many times has that light descended, drawn to earth by the call of aspiring love. That is a direct contradiction of the whole basis of Christianity. So he's correcting both Christianity and Judaism in this. It's not, Jesus is not the only Son of God. Many times has that light descended because God chooses those who choose him. And this is what the whole festival is about, which is that the promise has been given, the divine light has returned anew to earth. Into our hands have been delivered the sacred keys of awakening. We can now, by our own commitment, we can draw the power of God into us. See, this is also what, if you take Master's message for Dwapara Yuga, this is the essence of his message. And we define it as Kriya Yoga. But Kriya, the word Kriya means action. And when we say Kriya Yoga in America, it to a very large extent, it is associated with Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings, whichever lineage you're following. But in India, the word Kriya simply means action. And there are many Kriyas, and many lineages have their own Kriyas. Swamiji, to be clear, calls it the Kriya Yoga of Lahiri Mahashaya, because Lahiri Mahashaya, commissioned by Babaji, was the one who came back to the city of Varanasi after his initiation, and for the next 20 several decades sat there and practiced Kriya and initiated people. And he's the one who brought it into modern times. He was the avatar who did that. But the fact that Master chose a generic word for it, and a generic word with an active meaning, action. And you see, through Kali Yuga, which is the descending age that we've just come out of, that turned in the year 500 AD and really began in the year 1900. So it's just in this last 120 years that Dwapara Yuga per se has really manifested itself. During Kali Yuga, everything becomes dogma and form, and therefore ritual and priestly intercession and religious authority and institutions, that's what happens in Kali Yuga. And everything becomes rigid and separated. There's the Christians, there's the Jews, there's the Hindus, there's the Buddhists, there's the Zoroastrians, whoever there is, they're all divided up and they're all separate. This is my religion. What happens in Dwapara Yuga is that we think in terms of consciousness and energy. Even just in my short lifetime, people used to be a Methodist, a Congregationalist, a Lutheran, or a Reformed Jew, or an Orthodox Jew, or a whatever you would call it. And you'd go to a town, let's say, and you wanted to attend a service, you look for the denomination. You move to a new place, you look for your denomination. I'm a Lutheran. Nowadays, insofar as people go to institutions at all, which they call themselves much more spiritual and less religious. Religious means identified with an external form. People will come to a new town if they've moved there, and they'll look for a church that inspires them, where the energy and the consciousness are what they want. They're less concerned about what it's called, who it's affiliated with, what the dogmatic name is. They're looking for the energy, they're looking for the consciousness. So that's the first step. But the other part of what Master brought in teaching Kriya Yoga as he taught it, which is to teach us how to interiorize our consciousness and how to, by our own concentration and willpower and the grace of God descending, but how to meet that grace through Kriya, through action. And that puts responsibility for our spiritual life right in our own hands. That no priest is required, no denominational loyalty is required, no dogmas are the definition. It's not I believe, it's what do I do? Who am I? Master said, and I'm not going to be able to quote it perfectly, but he said, your religion is the garment of light that you wear in your heart. It's just your garment of light. That's what your religion is. It's not what you call yourself. Calling yourself doesn't make you anything. So it puts the responsibility right in our own hands. Your chosen people have always been those of every race or nation who choose thee. Now, what does it mean to choose God? It's not enough to say, I believe, or I am a Baptist, or whatever it might be, or I was baptized. It's choosing God is every moment. And then the festival again becomes active. And the symbol of God's love, which this is the candle, is held aloft, and gaze upon this light. And then please pray with me. And we say, O Lord, with all my heart, with all my mind, with all my soul, and with all my strength, I choose thy love. I choose only thee. So now we're also going back to, this is when Jesus was asked, how do you worship? With all my heart, with all my mind, with all my soul, and with all my strength. And he was quoting from the Jewish tradition when he said that. So here we are again, we're going back to the origin point, the original teachings of Jesus, which is the teachings of Judaism. With all my heart, mind, soul, and strength. But what do? I choose thy love. And this is, again, spiritual responsibility is in your own hands. What is life? What happens in a day-to-day life to all of us who have aspiring love, who are lifting our consciousness? Every minute we're having a choice, aren't we? Just every minute. Do I choose love? Do I choose kindness? Do I choose compassion? Do I choose faith? Or do I choose fear? Do I choose anger? Do I choose sadness? Do I choose separation? We might not think we have a choice, but we always have a choice. Our samskars attack us. That's what life is about. That's why every spiritual epic, every great epic, it's a battle. It's always a battle. And that's not because of religion is patriarchal. It's not because of an excessive masculine influence. It's because it's the truth. It's what we experience. And it's not so much good and evil fighting on the field of Armageddon, although it may come to that, who knows. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that every day, and the battle is this, we feel this aspiring love, and it opens us up to this superconscious influence, this divine force. You can say it from many angles. It opens us up to the call of the divine to awaken, and we are powerfully drawn to that potential. And simultaneously, all the habits of all our lifetimes, what we have built up as our self-definition, it has a vortex of energy that constantly wants to draw us back into it. So aspiring love is taking us this way, and this vortex of habit is taking us this way. And we're always having to choose between those. The battleground is the conscious mind. The superconscious mind, the subconscious mind, or the superconscious and the subconscious. Forget the word mind. These are just fields of energy, lifting us upward, trying to hold us just as we are, and the conscious mind is the battleground. Who am I going to listen to? This little girl who was in our kindergarten class in our school, the teacher told me this story. The little girl came to school that day, and she was just terrible all day long. The teacher finally took her aside and said, you know, what is going on with you today? She said, well, every day there's a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder. And usually I try to listen to the angel, but today I decided to listen to the devil. Out of the mouths of babes. There's a downward pulling force. There's an upward aspiring force. And we're always trying to make a decision. Do I meditate, or do I just go have a cup of coffee? Do I give in to this anger, or do I find a way to be helpful instead of just angry? Do I sit here and stew about how nobody listens to me and nobody takes care of me? Or do I ask myself, what can I do to change my magnetism? These are questions every day, every single day. It's always between the expansive superconscious direction and the contractive subconscious direction. And that's where the word choice comes in. But this is also where Kriya comes in, because the specific practice of the technique of Kriya or something like it helps us unwind all those samskars, helps us dissolve all those samskars without just having to fight them, because they're just energy patterns. So when we meditate in such a way that we're actually influencing the energy pattern in the chakras, then the subconscious gradually, it gets cleared of all those contractive habits and becomes, we establish an entirely new reality. There may still be a higher and a lower end to our consciousness, but the whole spectrum begins to move higher and higher. Well, I have more to say about this particular subject, this particular section, but that will be it for today. God bless you.